If there's one thing I love about RuneScape, it's that each and every player has a different story. No adventure is alike, and that rule of thumb applies even more so to unique, self-restricted accounts more than any other. From locking your account to a single region, exploring the game in a rigid or mathematical order, or, as is currently very popular for some reason, locking yourself in a 64x64 grid, completing everything that chunk has to offer, and then moving on unlocking adjacent 64x64 chunks. Yes, today we're talking about Chunkman accounts. While variations on rules, starting location, and difficulty do vary significantly, there's always one thing in common: the death chunk. When a chunker completes a chunk and rolls a new area, those rolls are generally split into 3 categories. Josh Isn't Gaming broke them into nothing, long, and high value chunks, but I prefer the categories free, normal, and death chunks, determined solely by the amount of time needed in the chunk before moving on. Now, whether that's a combination of heavy grinds or RNG-based loot tables, or both, the difficulty of the chunk is generally predetermined. Often, these grinds come from unlocking large dungeons attached to the entrance located on a rolled chunk. Every time a dungeon entrance is unlocked, a Chunkman's experience is almost always a sizable addition to their challenges, and it's also identical to other chunk accounts almost all of the time. But I've always wondered, what if a dungeon wasn't fully unlocked when you unlocked the entrance? So after a bit of theory crafting and a couple rollbacks, I came up with mirror mode. Unlike the traditional Chunkman rule set, when a dungeon entrance is unlocked, a mirrored 64x64 grid that lines up with the surface entry point becomes unlocked, as well as any existing chunks previously unlocked that line up with the dungeon, acting like a mirror. This could definitely lead to some very unique grinds that would otherwise not exist, and depending on the direction someone entered a chunk from, could completely change the strategies required to beat said chunk. To help keep track of all the rules, much like almost every other chunker in existence, I'll be using the Chunk Picker website. It features a customizable rule set and also displays all of the tasks I am required to complete. Speaking of rule sets, I'll be pulling from both the Extreme and Supreme and other unused rules to make the Every-Drop Ruleset. I'll bring up exact rules as they apply and become relevant, just so that the flow of this video isn't horrible, or you can also find them attached in the comments below if you want to join me in the Every-Drop game mode. To keep me on my toes, I did not know where I was going to start. I could have chosen somewhere like Karend Castle, where the dungeon is expansive and the rule set would have immediately taken hold and become very visually significant, but I wanted this experience to feel natural, so I randomly rolled my starting chunk. I chose to roll with every chunk available, from the coastlines of Sleep to the camps of Tyrus. If I was going to be locked in the Theater of Blood on episode 1, then so be it. So without further ado, let's roll our starting chunk. Welcome to the subcontinent of Alderaan, an island nation off the coast of Varlamore, known for their wines, their outdoor theaters, and beautiful ocean view villas. And tucked away to the south, in the grungy heel of the island, is Mistrock, a shady dwarven mining outpost with hardened residents and even harder ales. It is also home to Chunkmist, our new account. Little does he know, he's going to be spending a lot of time in this area. Fashioned to look as close to a traditional dwarf as I could humanly remember, Chunkmist will need to navigate this rocky beginning to unlock his world one chunk at a time. And for those of you watching this after seeing my other series, LoreBound, you'll notice this is literally the opposite of what I do for my playthrough there. We will be using plugins, wikis, guides, and every resource physically available to us because we need to. Will it wreck LoreBound? Unlikely, considering the isolation of Mistrock, but with that being said, let's get started. Grandeur aside, every journey still does begin on Tutorial Island, where we get the absolute minimum done before locking ourselves into the Ironman experience and heading to the main continent of Gelinor. So the game plops you here, but our starting chunk is way the heck over here. So how do we get there? Well, through a small quest known as Children of the Sun. Unfortunately, this quest is absolutely required to gain access to Varlamore as a whole, the continent we'll likely spend most of our time in, but that's not the end of our troubles. Once we arrive in Varlamore, well, one does not simply walk to Mistrock. It's still landlocked to a smaller island known as Alderaan. And Antonio, she wants her dues. 20 coins. Sure, that shouldn't be too hard to get, right? Fortunately, we still do have our starter items, so I sell a bunch of them to raise funds for the trip over. As we walk across the land of Alderaan, through the bustling port, between the bank and the manor, home to the aforementioned outdoor theater, and the lush lands brown, the cliffs climb high, a clear divide from lush to poorly kept. The world goes gray as we set up the chunk-locked boundaries, and then our walls become more solid than ever before. This is the Mistrock chunk, and it features some pretty cool things. Our first random event of many, and our first item. We still have our starting items, though. Well, I mean, we can't have that, now can we? As we move away from our soon-to-despawn starter pile, I begin exploring the chunk. First, our major lucky lifeline, the bank. We fortunately do not need to experience the wonderful world of Gelinor as an ultimate Ironman, and we are blessed with this beauty instead. Oh, seems we still have some tutorial money in there. Well, can't have that now, can we? I play around with a few settings. Don't worry, this doesn't last long. Open up our Chunk Tasks plugin directly linked to the Chunk Picker website and begin to see what we need done in this chunk. We're given 30 tasks. One was Children of the Sun to gain access to this area complete, but 29 more tasks remain. Now, as I stated, I am running with a few rules that do tend to increase the difficulty of the chunks. One such rule is called the All Shop rule, where I need to buy one of every item from every given shop. But as I realize there isn't likely a way for me to buy anything in this chunk unless I sit around waiting for random events to give me coins. Now, of course, I do some due diligence. I pick up everything, talk to everyone from Nasty Nick to each of the vendors. Fun Mistrock fact, or more accurately fun Varlamore fact, the shops, specifically the bars, have a limitless stock of supplies, meaning you can buy as much wine as you want. Less fun fact, you can't sell anything to them. Speaking of stores, let's talk about the vendors of the chunk. We have the Stick Your Oar In bartender, who has a healthy supply of stat-boosting alcohols and some very helpful food supplies. Obviously, being poor means we can't buy any of that, though. Likewise, there's a mining supply shop. We're greeted with a zero stock of ores across the board, so it's a selling shop, which is good, and we can also get up to a beautiful steel pickaxe here, but alas, no ores in the chunk, and no money means no pickaxe for us. Same with the shield shop. No money, no shields. I check out every nook and cranny of the chunk, but alas, no wandering citizen to pickpocket, no enemies to kill, besides this one rat by the anvil, which I do kill for the sake of doing so, but then there's nothing. No skills to train, every single item that we need, our best in slot gear, our shop buys, all of our tasks are not completable. So what do? Do we wait around like some chunk accounts for random events to save the day? No. I'm a firm believer that the second best part of old school is the ability to play the game. And so taking away that ability for any reason is counterintuitive to the core mechanic of the game, having fun. And so much like many other chunk accounts before me, I've created the Not Just Standing clause. Get it? It's like notwithstanding, but the Not Just Standing clause states that if there is a task that cannot be actively worked towards, would require just standing around, and all other tasks in the chunk have been completed, the task or tasks may be delayed until it becomes reasonable to complete it through normal gameplay means. This generally applies to farming patches, but also for tasks reliant on random events. Otherwise, we'd be waiting here for a stale baguette, technically speaking, and that's not fun. So what else do we do but immediately go into rolling? Well, it's actually explaining one other additional rule we have. A little bonus. You see, I never understood why chunk accounts could only roll to adjacent tiles, and not also diagonals, so long as you can walk from the diagonal corner. You're not leaving the chunk, it makes sense to me, so we're going to do that. Not only does that add some potential unheard of grinding into the series, but unlocks the potential to skip around a bit in theory, and I like that. So as we enter the chunk picker for a second time, I take a deep breath and roll. And before you ask, yes, As we grow our chunk area, I will be dissecting our chunk roll options quite a bit more, the pros and cons of the rolls and so forth. Keep in mind this adventure started on the 7th of August. Some time has passed, and the footage I'm now collecting is now more in line with what you can expect from a chunk account, but not when I first started, so there will be a few little jumps here and there, and this is one of them. I was just so excited for another chunk roll that that's exactly what I did. Mistrock Cove. Fitting, really, that we should sweep the southern part of the island first. So what's in our second chunk? Do we have a moneymaker yet? No. We do have access to some bone spawns, some ores, iron, gold, and coal, which we obviously can't mine yet, and also the giant rat, our first attackable NPC that has a drop. Sure, the drop is bones and rat meat, but alas, they are drops. But this also brings me to big rule number 2 of Chunkmist, the Every-Drop rule. Just like stores, I must obtain one of every drop on an NPC drop table. However, I did put a hard limit to this rule at 1 in 5013. I find this number to be a nice happy medium between the stripes every chunk account should obtain, the curved bone, and also meme grinds like the smoldering stone or the draconic visage. Of course, if I roll the Slayer caves in the wilderness, I'll still need to farm black dragons for the visage drop, and Cerberus still has a smoldering stone drop, so it's not like these grinds don't exist, they're just elsewhere. Now what that does mean for us though is there is actually one task here that I need to complete, 1 in 128, the giant rat drops beginner clue scrolls. Not that I have a beginner step in my area, but it is a task nonetheless. Now you may be wondering, since we now have an enemy to train on, are we gonna get 30 defense to equip an adamant kite shield? Can we buy the shield? No. So that's a no for now then. I'm sure I'll have to take that on very, very shortly, as there are several chunks to the north that are going to solve that problem real quick. And so for now, we begin punching, and kicking, and burying our bones, and cooking the rat meat, and eating the rat meat. Side effects of both needing food because I tire of eating onions all the time, and well, it's combat experience. So let's montage it up and see where that 1 in 128 drop gets us. At kill 114, almost the drop rate, we end up getting our clue scroll, halting our grind. In total, we end up with 13 health, 7 prayer, 10 strength, 5 attack, 5 defense, 11 cooking, and a little stack of uncooked meat. So we're not looking too bad here. Still punching things, of course, but not bad at all. Time for another chunk roll, and hopefully this roll will keep us from having to belay our completion of the shop tasks and push us to actually get the required, yet not required, levels for the items that we currently can't obtain. And my hopes have come true with the Villa Lucens chunk. And all because of this one additional little itty bitty tiny chunk task, pickpocket a citizen. Now most of this chunk is out of bounds for us, locked behind a quest that requires us to have a considerably high agility level, but with no way to train agility, it's lamps or nothing for us. However, this little strip here is home to not 1, but 2 citizens, both a man and a woman, who occasionally walk in and out of the chunk. And oh, is that a jingle music to my ears, because with that, we have ourselves a way of generating coins. It's also a chunk task, but it also means every single task that we have belayed has now screeched back into view. From the bar drinks, to the pickaxes, to the shields, there's a lot of shields we need to buy. Not to mention, now that the adamant shields are buyable, they are wearable, meaning we're going to have to further grind our defense level to 30. And so 3 coins at a time, we begin to increase our net worth. At 60 coins, I realize there's a new attackable NPC in our area too, the bird, and thanks to our every enemy rule setting, killing one of each and every enemy despite their drop table is still a task. With no actual new drops, we do return to the money grind quite quickly. Something of note, there is a subcategory of the Every-Drop Ruleset that forces you to get every drop from every enemy, even duplicate drops, and that's a no-go for me. If we get the curved bone once, we're not going to do it 15 more times on different enemies. That's why when the bird drops bones, it doesn't trigger the achievement. It's a duplicate drop from rats. Of course, 60 coins isn't no money, so let's just take a quick peek and see if we can get anything from the stores. We get a chisel and a pickaxe to start, nice being able to hold a weapon for once, and while we don't have the money for a bronze kite shield, a bronze square is within our budget. We don our new shield and relish in 1 fewer useless equipment slots. With our remaining coins, we buy a couple drinks from the bar, knocking them off our list. Grabbing some of our cooked meat, as the citizens do tend to hurt a little over time, we hunkered down for what could be a pretty long grind, 3 coins at a time. Though only 10 minutes later, our food was already gone and our coins entered well into the triple digits. I used that to, of course, buy out the rest of the food we need from the bar, upgrade to an iron pickaxe, and get the bronze kite shield. Low on food and not yet quite realizing how amazing wines are, I cook up the remaining amount of rat meat in our bank, boosting our cooking level up to 13. The trips last much longer, and I get a healthy little nest egg. Wanting to clean up the mining shop before cracking down on shields, I buy the last item we require, the steel pickaxe, for a healthy 500 coins. Equipping it not only completes our shop task, but also our best in slot tasks that we had for stab and, well, all of that. If it wasn't such a lousy slow weapon, I might have actually used this for training, but it is. The iron square shield, of course, is next, so we go ahead and upgrade to that as well. Now, I do test out the pickaxe, but there's no max hit increase, and with 1 tick slower, I just don't see it being worth using at this time. I get an iron kite shield soon after, boasting higher defensive stats than the iron square, and then alternate between killing rats and stealing from citizens. After checking the prices of all the items in the shield store, yeah, that's a lot of pickpockets, I decide that the best way of actually completing this in a timely manner is reselling the older shields that I no longer need, along with the redundant items like the bronze pickaxe, to minimize the amount of citizens that I'll need to steal from. It helps, but only a little. So Relix, if you need defense levels for the chunk, why are you training strength? Well, giant rats have 5 health, and our max hit is currently 2. We can hit 2 damage at a time, meaning that we can get drops of 8 combat XP per hit. Also, by now, I understand the value of wines, but if our strength level is just a little higher, we can hit higher. 3s mean a max of 12 XP per hit. 4s, 16 XP, and so forth. So where's the happy middle ground? Where does grinding strength levels no longer become as efficient as just straight up dashing to level 30 defense? Level 17. At that level, I can hit 3s. And so that's exactly what we grind to. Relix, why are you training attack? Well, again, attack affects your accuracy. You see all those zeros that I keep hitting? That's because the percent chance to hit is influenced by the attack accuracy of your weapon, ours being 0, plus your attack level, meaning the higher your attack, the more often you don't hit a 0. But again, where's the magic number when this becomes less efficient than just training defense to 30? Level 15, actually. You see, attack accuracy gives depreciating values for every level. If, say, and I'm pulling these numbers out of my hypothetical butt, say you have a 50% chance to hit a giant rat with your fist at level 1 attack. At level 2 attack, that might raise to 55%, but then at level 3, instead of giving you a flat 5% hit chance increase, it might only be 4%, and then level 4, 3.5%, level 5, 3%, and so on. Eventually, you hit a percentage that diminishes to the point where the XP rate gain would no longer be worth training, as the amount of time you spend getting that increased hit chance could also just go into training the skill that we need, defense. Now, does defense increase your XP per hour? A lot of you might be thinking no, but that's not correct. As you could guess, defense increases the odds that an enemy hits a 0 on you. So when food is limited, or when your armor and health regen cannot keep up with the damage that the opponent is doing to you, the downtime that you spend healing, restocking, cooking food, obtaining new food can absolutely tank your XP rates. So it is still quite important to train. Now, can you guess what came first? The money required to buy all the shields in the store, or 30 defense? It was 30 defense, not even close. And with only one single choice of training left, there was no more back and forth. No more choice. I got grinding and grinding. These pockets became raw, and eventually I had enough to tick off the rest of the shields. I actually skipped the Addy Square and went right to the kite shield, because then I could sell the kite shield and have most of the money I needed for the Addy Square. But yeah, that was like my whole reasoning. After equipping the shield and completing several best in slot tasks, I sold the shield, did a little more pickpocketing just to get me over the edge, and got our last task, the Addy Square purchase, out of the way. And with that, we return yet again to the chunk picker, and this time, like normal chunk accounts, we have no pending tasks and a couple options, but they're definitely not equal anymore. Chunk 1, the Moonshire Alchemical Headquarters, features not only a Puro spawn, but guards, which would be quite interesting considering their wide table drop and our lack of weapons. Fortunately, there is a new bank in that chunk, so there would be a nice little plus for us if we rolled that one. The Alderaan docks would be objectively worse, because not only is there no bank in the chunk, there's still also guards, and there's charter ships with the regular ships, which would not only open the world map way up for us, as we are going to permit charter ship use as a common method of transportation, we also got diagonals. I mean, we're running diagonals. There's no way we're limiting our rolls to walkable chunks, but alas, both are cakewalks compared to the Alderaan Mansion's North chunk. Not only would this unlock a new thieving method for us, one that will require a lot of RNG, but these chests hold many rare seed drops. And while again we don't need to worry about the drops over 1 in 5013, the Lantidime seed, which is a 1 in 4856 drop, is required for us to move on from that one. While not necessarily a death chunk, it is definitely a long one. Even worse, it holds a combo grind with the Alchemical Headquarters. Farming. From the chest drops, there is a 1 in 175 drop chance for Wild Blood Hops seeds. And considering the number of chests we'll have to unlock for the chunk, we will very likely get 4 of these, meaning a 1 to 28 farming grind from raking alone could also trigger. Let us hope though that we can delay that grind for as long as possible. Then again, it's not really up to us, it's up to the wheel. And so, we roll. And we get ourselves the Moonrise HQ. Now don't get me wrong, this is the easiest of the chunk rolls we could have gotten, but it is no picnic. We have new tasks. Level 35 cooking to brew a jug of wine becomes a new task for us because of Alderaan's very unique wine collection minigame, giving us fairly easy access to grapes. Guards need to be pickpocketed at level 40 thieving. We're actually almost already there thanks to the citizens, and of course, raking our new hops patch. Aside from the skills task, the guard drops an iron dagger at 1 in 21, which will officially be our best weapon for the foreseeable future. Leather gloves? That's also kinda neat, and we'll get to that shortly. Lastly, we have the stores, which again, we need to buy 1 of each item from. However, these stores are a little bit different, and it's going to be a little bit more complicated to complete this than it originally seems. More on that in a moment as well, though. Inputting the chunk code, we stand and watch as the once grey lands light up with life, and we begin to explore the area. First, no longer will my citizen target walk into no-go zones. I can follow them over. 2, we got a spade. Yes, a spade spawn. That's pretty big for any chunk account, as the majority of clue scrolls require this little baby right here, and it is a magical little skip recipe for many grinds. Easy clues would be an absolute game changer for us, as we now have 1 easy clue scroll step location. But unfortunately, besides the random event chance of giving us a clue scroll, there's currently no methods to get one. Next on the docket, a new pickpocketing target, the farmer. Fine, okay, fine, we'll get to you later then. There's our crop circle area ready to take us to Puro if we ever let our hunter level slip upwards. What's with this footage? I popped the sidebar out and, oh man, Relix, you got some learning to do for... Don't worry, like the weird green bar, this will pass shortly. Now we of course want to bump off tasks as quickly as possible, so we buy a rake and rake out our patch. Then our eyes focus on that leather glove upgrade. But I walked around the chunk and I didn't find any gloves. Well, it turns out there isn't. However, up this windmill, above this green hopper, there's a new NPC, the chicken, but also this thing, the nice nest. And it's kind of special. You see, there's certain items you can place in it, and then upon world hopping or logging off, they're exchanged magically for a different item when you go to search it again. And for us, exchanging a rope, which is a spawn in our area, gives us the gloves. Now, of everything known about this nest, there are only 2 exchanges that are really worth pursuing for us. This one, the rope to gloves, and another, the mithril limbs to mithril crossbow exchange. If we ever get our smithing high enough to make mithril limbs or ever come across another way of obtaining them, they could unlock ranged for us. Remember those farmers? I do. And they have very deep pockets comparatively to the citizens. And with a pretty decent success rate, we can get like 9 coins per pickpocket, with the added potato seed every 1 in 26. Okay, I know we're talking about single-digit coins here, but this effectively thirds the amount of time that I need to grind for money, which makes buying out the farming shop and all the supplies oh so much easier. Of course, that's not the only shop in the chunk. 2 more shops, another bar, the Sunlight Sanctum, and Moonrise Wines are also needing to be bought out. There is one little problem though. You see that? That is the notoriously expensive Eclipse Red. It's 1,000 coins, and because of the price and the very commonly known fact that there's a little bottle spawn over here somewhere, people tend to come to Alderaan to sell these wines. And a lot of these wines, and as an Ironman, I am unable to partake in shop overstock prices. You'd think that would mean that I would have to buy the item at its regular price, but no, you can't buy them, period. I hopped a few worlds, couldn't find a solution. It's my hope that by the time I end this chunk, I will have a solution around this one. Now the other wines are also not too cheap, so I do spend a bit of time thieving, getting a little cash stack. I also need 40 thieving for the chunk task, so 2 birds with 1 stone here. And there is 40. I can now pickpocket guards. Hehe, 30 coins per pouch. I mean, the loot rate has definitely dropped. I'm being caught much more often, but it's not at a point where it's worth stealing from farmers anymore. I finally buy out the last of the stocks of wines. I buy out everything in the chunk, aside from the Eclipse Red. Now, of course, my suicidal self thinks, well, if no normal world has an unflooded stock of Eclipse Red, what might have a normal stock? You guessed it, a PvP world. And you would be right. I braved the skull and ventured into a PvP world, only for a moment, to get ourselves some of that 1,000 gold wine. Okay, it's done. Go, 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 go. Hopping worlds back to safety. I check off the shop stock. Complete. Okay, so what's left in the chunk? Well, cooking to 35 for the wine, and then there's the guards. The drop table. Not wanting to be stuck with only combat, I decided to start tackling the guards. Adamant square shielded hand, we end up running for the hills. This guy hurts and bad, and our hit rate is pretty low right now. I managed to snag some food before he bops me again. We eat up and we finish our first kill. Holy Hannah, what are the odds of that one? That's onion seeds, a new unique drop, and a medium, yes, a medium clue scroll drop. Completely useless to us, but it exists nonetheless. Well, there's only one thing to do now, and that's repeat until we're done. So let's get started. After a little, military training, that is. Nice fashionscape for the win here. Actually, we weren't that far off of our cooking requirement. We had a lot of rat meat from our 30 defense grind, and, yeah, we need some extra food for these guards anyways. They're hitting like trucks. And we might as well use the stuff we have first before having to resort to buying wines, as wines are going to drop our combat levels and slow our XP rates. So I'd prefer not to use those unless necessary. Also, I decided to use our excess funds to upgrade back to the Adamant Kite Shield. Thought it would be worthwhile, and considering the amount of guards that beat me up, in hindsight, I am very happy I did this. Of course, sooner rather than later, we get our big upgrade drop, the Iron Dagger. And yes, I'm sure I'll get many, many more of these, but this one's special, because it's the first. Even though it's a minimal boost to stats, the time it takes to kill each guard dropped by a few seconds each. And in the long run, this little upgrade probably saved me a couple hours. Or minutes. Who knows how long this grind will take? Certainly not me! As we begin to collect more and more of the drops, the tomato seed, the cabbage seed, lots of rare drops, still ever so elusive. And it had me thinking, will the rarest drop be the last drop we get, or could one of the more common drops actually be our kryptonite? Well, I mean, it won't be the 1 in 311 strawberry seed, the 3rd rarest drop from the drop table. Speaking of rarity, let's take a peek at this. While the guard does have quite a few drops in the 1 in 128 drop rate, 4 drops come out slightly rarer, scratch that, the sweet corn seed 1 in 155, the watermelon seed at 1 in 651, and the snapegrass seed at a healthy rarity of 1 in 896. So as you can imagine, between all the drop kills with the new items, there are many, Many repetitive kills, coins, iron daggers, seeds that have already dropped before, grain, a 1 in 128, more clue scrolls, statistically improbable at this point, considering the number of medium clue scrolls, like way too many clue scrolls for what is healthy. Oh yes, there's a big one, the sweet corn seed drop. Of course, the two big ones are still gonna elude us, but it's too early to tell if we're going to go dry though. One can only pray. And that is a big, juicy 30 attack. Yeah, these babies are flying up, and it would take forever to montage these suckers. Each kill becoming just a little quicker and just a little easier. No. Ooh, gross. I'm never doing that again. Why? Why is it an actual location? What the heck? Gross. And fire runes. That took a little more than their drop rate to get those guys. Oh gosh, no more medium clue scrolls, please. Alrighty then, I'll take that. Yeah, definitely won't complain about that drop here. Holy cow. Okay, there's only one big drop remaining, the watermelon seed. Another medium drop though, the chaos rune. Still got a few total drops remaining, and now iron ore is not one of them. And that is 35 strength with a whopping combat level of 40. Can ya guess how many guards I've killed so far? And there's a blood rune drop, another 1 in 128 drop. You know what? I think it's about time to pull up our loot tracker to see what our quarry is. Yes, we have killed 378 guards so far, meaning basically triple dry for those blood runes, but very lucky on those snapegrass seeds. Looking through the drops, and yes, we're down to 2 drops. We're still missing a 1 in 128 nature rune drop, and of course our watermelon seed. But just how long can it take to get those 2 drops? Well, there's 34 attack, and there's 24 prayer. It's at this time I start using a combination of wines and pies to maximize stat drop with cost. There's a 4th stored lamp. Little unsure what I should use them for though, so I'm just saving them up for now. Wow, a 2nd snapegrass drop. That was not expected at all. The kills are definitely speeding up now, with our stats being just a little bit more chunky. Speaking of 25 prayer, thank you, Molly. I will take all the gems I can get, because I have a feeling like they're gonna be real helpful real soon. And there is our nature rune drop at 667 kills. Way dry for that one, but also a bit of a waypoint here as we're now above the drop rate for the watermelon seed. I can now officially say, unlucky. More clues, even more clues. Hey, have you seen these clue scrolls? All the rage at the capital right now. Quizmaster? Mithril Scimitar chance? Oh, nope, it's just Niles. Man, why do you have to look so similar, my man? 43 strength and 45 combat. We are climbing. Let's catch our strength up though. 45 strength and 46 combat. Hey, freaking man, got some fashion for us? Yeah, no thanks. Oh my gosh, the clue scrolls here are so hot. Too bad I have no medium steps, eh? Gosh darn it, Niles, you tricked me again. Okay, now this is starting to get on my nerves. Now it is on my nerves. Hey Rick, could've used you like half an episode ago, but honestly this pays for food right now, so I'll take what I can get. You know what? These lamps are also starting to take up too much space, so I'm just gonna toss them into Slayer. Definitely am not gonna regret that decision later on. Too many clues. Yeah, I've been here for a bit now. 47 strength, still smacking guards. And then, you know what? Live voice for this one. Huh! It's over. 1,488 kills. It's done. Oh, yes. Oh, finally. Woo. Oh my gosh, we're done. We are done. Oh my gosh. Done indeed. Halfway between double and triple dry, we get the drop. But we're not done yet. We've been actually saving the juiciest part for last. Literally. The wine minigame. We just need to take this weird jug, look for the shiny grapes, put them in, and exchange them. Our payment, regular grapes. 5 at a time. That's 1,000 cooking XP every time we exchange those shiny grapes over. If we ever have a whopper of a cooking grind, I bet this is gonna come in handy. Adding water to the jug, then the grapes, we wait a moment for the wine to ferment, and complete the task. Chunk complete. Now, what is that? What the heck is that wheel? Why aren't you? Okay, so don't worry. This only lasts for one chunk roll. You see, originally, before I fleshed out mirror mode into what it is, I wanted to actually roll dungeon chunks individually. Also, Puro for some reason. Dumb idea. Turns out, that's a logistical nightmare. There's no way of implementing that without using third-party rolling sites like this, and I don't know, it kind of feels like it cheapens the deal, which is why mirror mode and not rolling dungeons became the unique trait for the series. Now this roll was a little scary, despite the comical colors, because the 4 regular chunks had a little bit of weight to them. Number 1, the docks. Now, I was wrong when I was originally stickering these things. I thought there was a crafting grind. Turns out it's actually a fletching grind. I'm still missing some tools for crafting, so let's just ignore that little icon there. The Alduin Mansions would, as mentioned before, unlock a huge thieving grind, as well as a farming grind. The Darkmoon Ravine, number 3, is completely free. And number 4, Alduin's Coastal Magics, would also be free, for now. It did, however, mean that once I got an axe, it would be a nightmare chunk roll, as it would force me to not only get 74 wood cutting to cut magic trees, because we can get a +1 boost from that expensive wine, but we would also need a whopping 87 fletching to get the magic shield. So let's hope we can delay that roll as long as possible. Hopefully until I've unlocked a furnace and a mining method so I can train smithing to get ourselves a little better than a basic axe, eh? Wow, what a clownfest of a roll, but a roll nonetheless, and Alduin docks do grace us with their presence. Now guard-free, the chunk is far less mortifying. What is that ruby bolt-tip fletching task, though? I don't recall having a fletching method. Maybe something in the new chunk will enlighten our mind to this. 1 code input later, and the kitty corner chunk lights up. Shame we have to walk all the way around this section to get there, but beggars can't be choosers. Okay then, we got a gem shop, which explains the fletching requirement, but what's in our rule set that's going to get us there? I know we have a chisel, so we can make bolt tips, but what's going to get us 2 sapphire bolt tips in the first place? I buy the shops out of their stock, and then use our sneaky PvP world method to get the rarer gems as well. There's also a nice fruit and veggie shop, which enables us to access things such as the garden pie recipe, which I'm sure will come handy in later as well. Oh, cool, we got a general store, very nice. Look out, he's got a knife, ah! Okay, okay, fletching is starting to make a little more sense, and I really don't like where this is pointing me. Shockingly, killing thousands of guards was moderately profitable, so we were able to buy out all of the shops basically immediately, including the charter ship shop, which is also going to grant us access to our new best-in-slot armor, the Tyrus Helm. Now, I did run out of money before buying the empty bucket pack, but otherwise we got all the other shop tasks purchased. That leaves us with 4 remaining tasks. Burn logs, kill a seagull, buy the bucket pack, and 63 fletching. The fire was simple. The bucket pack, after a little more thieving on the guards, was also easy, and the seagull was en route. Now that just leaves the fletching, but how do we level fletching? Headless freaking arrows. We make headless arrows. From what though? I know you have chickens for feathers, but logs? Yep, we got a log spawn. And so my world became gray. Hopping until Jagex thought I was a bot, killing chickens, thousands of chickens, and then I did the math. How many worlds would I need to hop? How many chickens would I need to kill? If each log gives you 5 XP and 15 arrow shafts, and each chicken gives an average of 6.25 feathers, and feathering the arrow shaft gives 1 XP per shaft, I'll need to hop worlds 24,574 times and kill 58,997 chickens to reach that goal. Now, despite that becoming clearly a meme grind, I did give it a good old college try. It was at this time, the time killing chickens, that I solidified my mirrored mode concept. I had a lot of time to think about it after all, and then I realized one thing. Chunkman accounts don't need to be played this way. Every rule is a choice, and every restriction is a choice, and every item source, if the option is toggleable, and it just so turns out that the log spawn, item spawns counting as primary sources, happens to be one such sub-rule. And so despite wanting to be as close to the supreme extreme experience as I could, I changed the rule. Nearly 4,000 chickens later and 39 fletching levels later as well, we decided that with one click to Exodia the entire task. May you return when I get a bronze axe or something. And from this point on, right till now, which is quite a bit farther than the videos are going to show, unfortunately, the rules have been stable. I found a nice happy medium where the grind feels good and it doesn't feel unfair. Since unchecking this box clears the log spawn as a required item source, our fletching task likewise just blips out of existence, prompting another chunk roll. With the port now unlocked though, our map expands dramatically. Not with just 2 or 3 options, but 11. 11 potential rolls. And yes, I know the port serum chunk is also 1 block lower. I correct this before it becomes an issue, so don't worry. But with that being said, I'm gonna get right into the roll now without any real explanation. Well, because you'll see in just a moment. And that is the Dark Moon Ravine. Of all things to roll, this was the least consequential. It contains a couple, and I emphasize on a couple of tiny tasks. Kill a bat and get its bones. That is it. That is the chunk. Now that that freebie is out of the way, let's get into some chunk dissection, shall we? Musa Point and Port Sarim by themselves unlock very little. However, combined with the added above chunk Port Sarim, this could be a huge Royal Titan grind, along with the curved bone grind from Ice Giants. Fun! Number 2, again, it's magic trees, which would add a lot to a future grind. 3, again, the chests loom over us. Frankly, if we roll that though, it's gonna be better than world-hopping log grinds though, so that's a plus. Frankly, I'm glad I stuck it out for as long as I did though, as it puts into perspective that even long grinds can be okay, so long as it isn't chickens. Number 4 is quite unique. Not only does it give us access to Thieves, which is a pretty good herb drop source, but opens the map way up for us. Unfortunately, it also gets us very close to the real estate agent, the Colosseum, and a furnace with a close bank. I wouldn't mind that one. Number 5 is Port Khazard, which, yikes. This is mining to mithril and a bronze axe. That is a very big chunk. Not to mention if I happen to get my fishing all the way up to, well, it's got the trawler and the nets, which could theoretically give me a way to train crafting up to sapphires. Ew. This is a big red flag. Death chunk. Not good. Avoid at all costs. Number 6, Catherby, which is pretty free. It contains most of the stuff I've already completed in this chunk. Number 7 is also free, but also very scary, as it gets us within 1 tile of a rather notorious agility grind. Not sure if I do it to 99 agility or to 40 agility though. I'm a bit back and forth on whether I want to add skill capes to a chunk requirement. I think I'm a bit for it though. Do we go for the highest non-skill cape achievement, or should I toggle on the skill capes? You can vote by clicking the link in the description below. It'll bring you to the posts tab on our channel, where all my comment polls are currently held. Number 8 is also free, but puts us 1 chunk away from Ogre Shamans, which is a curved bone grind on a very not too easy enemy. Lastly, number 9, which is the standard Alderan ferry crossing, would give us our axe anyways, which would start the fletching and woodcutting grind as well. Not as bad as Port Khazard, but it's still gonna be a big long grind. Now all that's really left though is to roll. Now I did think for a moment, let's hold off on the roll and cliffhanger everyone right here, but that doesn't feel right. So instead we'll close with the roll. You stuck around this long, and I think it's appropriate you're rewarded for your viewing dedication. And with 1 click, we're away. Huh. Thank you so much for watching the first ever episode of Chunkmist. For returning viewers, thank you for giving the Chunk account a chance. I hope you enjoyed it, despite its rather different feel to the LoreBound series. And oh gosh, LoreBound! It's my other series. Hi people who are seeing me for the first time. Chunk accounts tend to have a pretty infrequent upload account, so I have LoreBound that tends to fill the gap. It's fun, go check it out if you haven't already. Finally, an extra special thank you needs to go out to our channel members. Ahumaya, Harry Enjoys Ducks, Nantuko Avatar, One Green Fig, Rivacious, Anite, and Aranus. To the left is the subscribe button. You should click it if you ever want to see more Chunkmist, or LoreBound, or other OSRS related videos that are still to yet be determined. To the right, well, there's an episode 2, it'll be in the top right, and if not, it'll be my most recent video. And the bottom right, well, that's the LoreBound series, in a playlist all bundled up and waiting for another person to binge watch the series. Hope to see you there. Toodles!